The sky above Neo Viridia shattered without warning. Imagine one moment you're grabbing a synth coffee on your way to the maglev. The next, the very fabric of reality is tearing apart. Giant shimmering rifts like jagged wounds of purple and gold ripped open the heavens. Below, the city screamed. Buildings, once symbols of human achievement, groaned as they were torn from their foundations, pulled piece by piece into the swirling vortexes. Cars, hoverbikes, entire sections of Skylanes all became debris in a cosmic hurricane, spiraling into dimensions we never knew existed. Panic was a tidal wave, but for three teenagers watching from the highest spire of the Aegis Tower, it was a call to action. This was Jox, Maya, and Leo. While the world looked up in terror, they looked up with resolve. With practiced efficiency, they launched their fleet of advanced drones, the Fireflies. These weren't toys. They were extensions of their will, sleek, agile machines designed for the unknown. Their mission: track the rifts, understand the chaos, and find a way to fight back. The city was being devoured, and their drones were the only eyes they had in the storm. The decision was unanimous, and frankly, there was no other choice. They had to go in. One by one, Jox, Maya, and Leo piloted their personal drones, Cerberus, Artemis, and Icarus, directly into the maw of the largest rift. The transition was violent, a gut-wrenching lurch that felt like being turned inside out. Then, silence. They emerged into a world stolen from a fever dream. The sky was a perpetual twilight, illuminated by strange, distant nebulae. Gravity was a suggestion, not a law. Enormous islands of crystalline rock and earth floated lazily in the void, connected by bridges of pure light. The flora was a spectacle of its own towering. Bioluminescent fungi pulsed with soft blues and greens, and vines thick as pythons snaked around everything, glowing with an inner energy. It was terrifyingly beautiful. As they navigated this surreal landscape, a distress beacon cut through the alien silence. It was weak, flickering, but it was there. Following the signal, they found it. A city transport pod, crashed and wedged precariously between two floating islands. And huddled beside it, a small group of civilians. Their faces pale with shock and fear, staring into the impossible new world they'd been thrown into. Time was running out. The transport pod was groaning, threatening to break apart and send the survivors plummeting into the glowing abyss below. Maya, ever the precise engineer, took the lead. She maneuvered Artemis, her drone, into position. A brilliant blue tractor beam shot out, wrapping around the fractured hull of the pod, stabilizing it against the shifting islands. "I've got them," she called out, her voice tight with concentration, "but I don't know how long I can hold it." That was Jox's cue. He was the protector, the hotshot pilot. His drone, Cerberus, was a bulldog heavily armored and armed.
Ow.
He began circling the survivors, a chrome guardian against the unknown threats lurking in the shadows. He scanned the area, his sensors flaring as they picked up movement in the dark, crystalline forests. "We've got company," he warned, his tone grim. "Whatever lives here knows we've arrived." He positioned Cerberus between the survivors and the encroaching darkness, its weapon systems humming to life. The rescue was on, but the welcome party was just about to begin, and they weren't friendly. The eerie silence of this dimension was about to be broken by the screech of nightmares. From the deep shadows of the crystalline canyons, they emerged. The creatures were horrors made manifest, all skittering, multi-limbed monstrosities with exoskeletons that shimmered like obsidian. Their heads swiveled on thin necks, and rows of phosphorescent eyes glowed with predatory hunger. A high-pitched, chittering screech echoed through the floating islands, a sound that scraped at the nerves. They were fast, scuttling over the terrain with an unnatural agility, and they were swarming the crash site. "They're on us," Jox yelled, firing a volley of plasma bursts from Cerberus. The shots sizzled against the creature's carapaces, momentarily stunning them but doing little real damage. The attack was relentless. The multi-limbed aliens lunged, their sharp claws clanging against Cerberus's armor. It became a chaotic, high-speed chase. Jox weaved his drone through narrow, crystalline gorges, trying to draw their fire, while Maya struggled to guide the civilian pod toward the shimmering rift back home. "I can't shake them," Jox shouted, his drone taking hit after hit. The creatures were intelligent, flanking him, trying to cut him off from the escape route. The largest of them, a true behemoth with sweeping side-like arms, broke from the pack and charged directly for Maya and the civilian pod. They were out of time. "Jocks, Maya, get them out of here." Now Leo's voice, usually the calmest of the three, was sharp and decisive. Before they could argue, his drone, Icarus, shot forward like a silver bullet. Icarus was the fastest, the most agile, built for speed and reconnaissance, not for a fight. But Leo was using its greatest asset, its incredible velocity. He pulled a maneuver so risky, so insane, that Jocks and Maya could only watch in stunned silence. He flew Icarus directly at the behemoth creature, a fly challenging a giant. He skimmed past its head, firing a harmless but bright energy flare right into its cluster of eyes. The creature roared in fury, its attention completely diverted from the escaping pod. It forgot everything else. Its primal rage focused solely on the tiny, insolent drone that had dared to blind it. This was the opening they needed. "Go," Leo screamed. The behemoth gave chase, swiping at Icarus as Leo led it on a suicidal dance through the most treacherous canyons. With the monster distracted, Maya guided the rescue pod through the rift just as it began to waver. The civilians were safe. Ow. Jocks followed them through, his drone battered but functional. He turned, expecting to see Icarus right behind him, but the rift shimmered, and Leo didn't come through. Back in the familiar, damaged skyline of Neo Viridia, the rifts began to stabilize. Their violent energy calming into faint, shimmering scars in the sky. The rescued civilians were being tended to, their tearful stories of the alien dimensions spreading like wildfire. On the rooftop of Aegis Tower, Maya landed Artemis and rushed over to Jocks, pulling him into a relieved hug. "We did it," she breathed, a wide grin on her face. "We actually did it." Jocks hugged her back, the adrenaline still coursing through him. "That was too close," he laughed. "Way too close." They celebrated for a moment, the victory sweet and hard-won. But the celebration felt incomplete. Jocks' eyes scanned the rooftop. "Where's Leo?" he asked, his smile fading. Maya's did too. They checked their coms. Silence. They scanned the skies. Nothing. A cold dread began to seep in, far more chilling than the alien creatures. Unseen by them, across the rooftop, hidden in a deep alcove of shadows, a figure stood motionless. It was Leo. He had made it back. Slowly he turned his head, stepping partially into the faint city lights. His face was pale, his expression unreadable, but it was his eyes that held the true horror. They were no longer the familiar brown they had always been. Instead, they glowed with a haunting, intense, and utterly alien green light. The rescuer had returned, but he hadn't come back alone. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for the next chapter.